actual name of this Yoda-like alien's race isn't the only little-known mystery surrounding this TV tyke. In fact, aside from those who have devoted themselves to knowing everything there is to understand about this deceptively powerful sprog, many are unaware of everything from how much this beam of innocent light actually cost to forge, to how old he really is. That being said, Gareth here from What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 things you probably didn't know about Grogu. Number 10, the cost of the child. Jon Favreau had to convince the House of Mouse paying the bills to dump an eye-watering $5 million on the table in order to fully realize his eventual vision for the ball of utter cuteness. This staggering cost of creation found its way into public knowledge on the back of Adam Pally, who appeared in The Mandalorian via Stormtrooper cameo in the first season's final episode, recounting a tale of him decking the diminutive puppet a little too hard during one particular take. As the comedy star would note to reporters at TCA later down the road, "I remember the first take that I did when I punched it. They called cut, and John, who was watching on a monitor in his office, came down and said, 'I just want to let you know that this is the hero and it costs like $5 million. I want you to hit it, but I want you to know that.'" Understandably a little spooked by this revelation, a nervous Pally subsequently missed his punch during the next 3 takes, as you would. Number 9, what went into his creation. And speaking of crafting the eventual superstar of this small-screen Star Wars adventure, it wasn't simply a case of smashing it out of the park from the get-go, upon deciding to go down the route of a younger version of the race the iconic Jedi Master Yoda was a part of for young Grogu. In fact, a ton of early concept art based on a cocktail napkin doodle by Dave Filoni depicted either a rather unsettling leathery version of the child, or a being that was a little too cute for its own good. Eventually, Jon Favreau and Filoni started to hone in on what this entity needed to be, and it was a design courtesy of Chris Alsman highlighting Grogu wrapped in a piece of a flight jacket or something that clicked for the pair. Primarily using the practical puppets, 2 were said to have been made for the show. When possible throughout the series, the animatronic Grogu even required up to 5 puppeteers to operate on set. Number 8, Jon Favreau was not a fan of Baby Yoda. As former Disney CEO Bob Iger found out the hard way during numerous conversations with a rather passionate Jon Favreau, the Mando creator wasn't exactly thrilled about the world's eventual branding of his precious puppet. Over the course of a set of emails between the pair, Iger would note on the Star Wars show, "In my early emails to Jon Favreau, I referenced in my emails Baby Yoda. It just seemed easy and I got my wrist slapped by John like a few times. It's not Baby Yoda, is how he put it." Softening ever so slightly on his Baby Yoda stance in the time since his true name of Grogu was revealed on the show, Favreau would at least concede on Good Morning America that, of course, everybody knows Grogu as Baby Yoda, which, by the way, is fine with all of us. We still call him Baby Yoda too, but he prefers to be called Grogu if you notice in the show. He perks up a lot when you say his name. Alright, John, we get it, we get the point. Number 7, where he sits on the Jedi Mentorship tree. As alluded to already by Ahsoka Tano during her first exchanges with the tiny legend during Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and eventually revisited via tragic flashback in the Book of Boba Fett, Grogu was raised and taught in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant by many different masters, before, the clones turned on the Order in response to Order 66. However, outside of these bites of exposition, no real concrete information has been fed to fans as to who precisely began the Force-sensitive youngsters' training in said temple. It is interesting to note, though, that Grogu would have likely been training alongside none other than Tano's eventual master, Anakin Skywalker. And as again depicted in the Book of Boba Fett, he was clearly present at the temple during the Great Jedi Purge. And while it isn't 100% clear at time of recording who exactly had a hand in guiding him early on, based on the fact that Luke Skywalker takes the dynamic child under his wing later down the road, teachings from the likes of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn, Count Dooku, and, you guessed it, Yoda himself, would have all probably found their way into his little noggin in the end, based on the tree of Jedi Mentorship he now finds himself sitting near the bottom of. Number 6, Dave Filoni was cautious about attempting to bring him to life. Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, and Mandalorian creative Dave Filoni had a few reservations about getting tangled up in the lore of a character held dear by so many, himself included. In a recent conversation with Vanity Fair covering the future of this galaxy far, far away, the Mando executive producer would confess that, honestly, it's something I never would have done because Yoda is Yoda. Going further, when nudged on the subject of the little green breakout sensation, Filoni also admitted, "I think people now look back and think it was like a slam dunk. But we were very cautious. The amount of measuring, especially in the first season, for how we were framing this kid took a lot of effort." To go along with Filoni's self-professed doubts over whether it was wise to delve into the background of an intentionally mysterious race, Kathleen Kennedy would also add that both Filoni and Jon Favreau debated quite furiously over the child in a playdate of sorts that she organized. But that aforementioned Chris Alsman concept sketch was eventually enough to convince both creatives this baby Yoda was more than worth a punt. Not literally, of course, he's bloody expensive. Number 5. A varied diet and complex communication skills. Far more than simply being a bundle of joy designed purely for marketing purposes, this child comes with its own array of intriguing complexities that make it just about as well-rounded as any other living and breathing element of this galaxy far, far away. And among these layered traits of the heart-stealing handsome devil is a bottomless appetite that truly knows no bounds. Over the course of the Mandalorian series alone, this hungry little guy has been spotted munching on frog creatures, bone broth, tentacle chowder, blue cookies, and rather disturbingly, even the unborn offspring of a certain frog lady. He's a growing tyke after all. Adding into this complicated combination of a creature is Grogu's apparent lack of conversing skills. However, upon his already noted initial interaction with Ahsoka Tano, the one-time Jedi is able to communicate with the eventual foundling via the Force. Fancy that. Grogu is also able to very much understand verbal speech, notably reacting to Mando upon hearing his actual name being uttered for the first time by his father figure, something Jon Favreau was no doubt thrilled about. Number 4, he shares a familiar Force ability. From the minute fans around the world watched this unassuming fuzzball lift a damn mudhorn in a bid to rescue his pal Mando in Season 1 of The Mandalorian, it was evident this innocent child was carrying his fair share of Force-sensitive secrets that would inevitably unfold before our very eyes. Yet arguably his most impressive Force feat to date went down in the finale of the Book of Boba Fett, as the foundling came face to face with a rampant rancor. Instead of attempting to lift this monstrous beast like he had done with other creatures in the past, a more learned Grogu opted to pacify the spooked critter, and ultimately eased it to sleep on the streets of Mos Espa. And funnily enough, this Force ability to calm and control animals somewhat was shared by 2 other well-known Jedi Knights as well, as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker had both been spotted using this taming skill over the years too. Number 3, what his Mandalorian status really means. As I've already touched upon a few times throughout this list, very early on in his on-screen Mandalorian life, young Grogu finds himself being adopted into Mandalorian culture as a foundling, a term used by Mandalorians when referring to the children adopted by the warriors of Mandalore. However, his inducting into the Mandalorian way of life also resulted in the Force-sensitive Jedi Initiate unexpectedly going down in the history books, along with the legendary Tar Vizsla, known for being responsible for crafting the Darksaber and being the first Mandalorian to be inducted into the Jedi Order. Grogu is the only ever being to hold the honor of being both a part of the Jedi Order and Mandalorian clan. With Grogu seemingly turning his back on the ways of the Jedi though, perhaps following a similar path to that of a certain Ahsoka Tano, and picking up his Beskar chainmail vest gift from Mando towards the latter stages of the Book of Boba Fett, his days of being recognized as both Jedi and Mandalorian look to be potentially over. Number 2, how old is Grogu and what was he doing before The Mandalorian? Time hasn't been too kind to the galaxy's sweetest foundling. Due to his mysterious race's rate of aging, Grogu, despite still technically being a child, has had to experience a substantial amount of heartache and trauma already. Even though he's still not able to hold a backwards conversation with his numerous pals made along the way, the child is actually already a whopping 50 years of age by the time he's stumbled upon in The Mandalorian. This, as fans would later come to discover, means that he'd already been caught up in the thick of the infamous attack on the Jedi Temple in the early stages of the Great Jedi Purge, with that event going down when he was just 22 years old and just starting out on his Jedi path. And this vulnerable tyke had then spent the next 3 decades trying not to be dispatched by various Inquisitors and Empire forces. He's just a child, damn it. For reference, Yoda was clocking in at around 900 years old before he eventually transitioned into the life of a Force ghost. So despite seeing his fair share of galaxy-shifting events over 5 solid decades, Grogu is still very much in his infancy. Number 1, why Grogu merchandise wasn't available from the off. While he has understandably gone on to become one of the most notable merch shifters on the planet since his touching 2019 debut, it wasn't just a case of pumping out the plush baby Yodas in their droves before Mando had even got his helmet on straight for Chapter 1. Trying to stave off those dreaded spoilers in whatever way he could before the eventual release of his small-screen Mandalorian adventure, Jon Favreau had grown tired of merchandise unveiled ahead of an actual project's premiere, revealing too much about what was in store for fans. And with Grogu's presence on the show not even being confirmed until its actual debut episode, Favreau would later admit to The Hollywood Reporter, "It's very difficult to keep secrets about projects you're working on. By holding back on that one product, we knew that it may have had the disadvantage of not having toys available day and date. But what we got in exchange was excitement surrounding the character, because everybody felt like they discovered him together. That emulated more what my experience growing up was like." It's safe to say Disney have more than made up for lost time in the years that have followed this baby Yoda, leaving the entire galaxy needing their own little green guy to feed Frog Lady eggs to. And that's our list. Know any other things people probably didn't know about Grogu? Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you're into this kind of thing, then head on over to whatculture.com and find some more awesome articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I have been Padawan Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. Thank you as always for clicking on this video today. May the Force be with you, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon. Bye bye!